navigating the online advertising landscape for things like health products or, supplements, it can feel like trying to find your way through a labyrinth, can't it?
Oh, absolutely. So many rules.
Exactly. Potential pitfalls everywhere.
It really can be tricky. And, well, that's why we're doing this deep dive today. We're looking specifically into Google Ads policies
Yeah.
for pharmaceuticals and supplements. We've
Really?
been digging into a pretty detailed guide from UpMedico to really get a handle on what's going on behind the curtain.
So our goal for you with this deep dive is, well, to cut through some of that complexity. We're going to break down what Google's guidelines actually permit
And what they don't.
and what they strictly forbid, yeah.
Yeah.
Why these rules exist in the first place, and crucially, what happens if your ads, well, don't comply.
Mm-hmm.
Think of this as getting the essential insights, the real nuggets of knowledge from this specific corner of the digital marketing world without you having to wade through the entire guide yourself.
So let's start with the absolute core question.
Why?
Why? Why are these rules so strict? What did this guide tell us is the main driver here?
Yeah, the guide makes it crystal clear right up front. The primary force shaping these policies, it's consumer safety.
Consumer safety.
Everything stems from that
Okay.
need to protect people.
That makes complete sense, doesn't it? Especially with products people are, ingesting or applying for their health. So how does that translate into specifics? What kind of ads or products is Google actually worried about blocking?
Well, the guide lays out several key areas, big concerns. They want to prevent ads for unapproved drugs or supplements, obviously.
Right. Things not officially okayed.
Exactly. And anything making medical claims that aren't backed by solid evidence, ads that try to imitate legitimate prescription meds, which, could be really dangerous.
Dangerous.
Products containing ingredients that are known to be harmful or maybe aren't disclosed properly, and just anything that flat out breaks local health laws where the ad is being shown. And it's really important to note, the scrutiny applies not just to the ad text or the image itself,
Uh-huh.
but just as heavily to the landing page you click through to. That page has got to be compliant, too.
Wow. That level of detail,
Yeah.
it really makes you realize how comprehensive this sort of gatekeeping is.
It really is.
Now, what about specific types of products? When you look through this guide, what were some common categories that, often run into trouble, get prohibited?
Yeah, when we went through the material, certain types definitely came up again and again as being high risk, or just frequently banned.
Right. Like, for example, weight loss supplements. That seems to be a major area of concern.
Huge.
The guide specifically calls out products like Sudaplanta, Slim Forte,
Mm-hmm.
HCG diet drops, and Lidadiquois. This suggests Google is pretty wary of products promising, dramatic results or maybe containing ingredients that have raised flags before.
And it's not just physical health either. Cognitive enhancers, no nootropics. They're also heavily scrutinized.
The brain boosters.
Yeah. The guide mentions ingredients like picomelon and DMAA being problematic. It links them to product examples like Jack Third, Mr. Hyde, herbal Xanax, which obviously sounds like it's trying to mimic a prescription drug.
Right. Red flag right there in the name.
Totally. And luminol, too.
Okay. And then there's sexual enhancement pills, another category with, well, a lot of restrictions, it seems.
Yep.
Examples given in the material include herbal Viagra, Eric's, Red Hot Sex, and Top Viral. Again, you see those names. It's like they're trying to mimic pharma effects or just making really bold claims.
It's a pattern, isn't it? And in the fitness space, anabolic and muscle growth supplements are under tight control.
Makes sense.
Products like Mdrol, Tren Extreme, Superdrol, and Halodrol liquidols are listed as examples often prohibited.
And maybe the most concerning category the guide highlights is products claiming to be unapproved disease cures.
Yeah, this one's serious.
The examples provided are pretty stark. Things like a Freedom from Diabetes kit, Deliverance from Herpes kit, or an Epilepsy Essentials kit. This category really underscores Google's stance against claims that try to bypass established approved medical treatments.
Wow, yeah. Seeing those specific examples, it really brings the policy to life, doesn't it? It's not just abstract rules. They're really targeting specific types of claims and products.
Definitely.
So what else did we learn about the
Sort of broader scope of the policy, beyond just these specific lists?
Well, the guide makes it clear it's not only those lists. The policy broadly prohibits products claiming to prevent, cure, or treat specific diseases unless they have the proper government approval. That's key.
Right. needs official backing.
It also flags supplements containing ingredients that are restricted or maybe act like pharmaceuticals. It gives examples like ephedra, DHEA, or even melatonin if you're trying to target users outside the US or Canada, where its regulatory status might differ.
Oh, that's interesting. That geographical nuance is important there. Absolutely. Location matters. Also on the list are non-certified CBD or cannabis-derived products, and even things like product names or branding that imitate or mislead by looking too much like legitimate pharmaceuticals.
Ah, the lookalikes.
Exactly. And the guide points out Google maintains a much longer, comprehensive list you'd really need to consult for absolutely everything.
Okay, so that covers a lot of what's not allowed. But what happens if you're trying to advertise something and bang, Google flags your ad, says it violates these rules? How do you even begin to fix that, according to this guide?
Yeah, good question. The guide provides a pretty practical walkthrough for dealing with disapprovals. The core principle is basically you must fix the ad and its landing page to comply.
Both parts.
Both parts. This means making sure the product is actually allowed in the location you're targeting, getting certified by Google if that's required for that specific product type, like pharmaceuticals or potentially CBD.
Right.
And critically, making absolutely sure the landing page doesn't have any prohibited claims or mention restricted ingredients.
Okay. And the actual steps, like in the Google Ads interface.
The guide details it.
Yeah.
You sign in, go to the campaign section, find ads in the menu, hover over the disapproved ad, click edit, make the necessary changes, could be text, image, the link, whatever, and then hit save.
Yeah.
The guide notes that just saving the ad automatically sends it back to Google for another review.
Okay. That makes sense. Fix the problem, try again, Google checks again. Simple enough. But what if you think the disapproval was just, a mistake, an error?
Yeah, or maybe you fixed everything you think is wrong, but it still gets disapproved.
Exactly. Can you challenge it? Push back?
Yes, you can. The guide explains the appeal process. If you're in your Google Ads account and you see the disapproved ad, there should be an appeal option right there.
Oh, okay.
Click that, and you'll typically select the reason for your appeal. Usually it's one of two things. Either you believe the original disapproval was an error,
You guys got it wrong.
pretty much, or you've reviewed the policy, you've made changes, and you believe you've now corrected the violation.
I fixed it. Check again.
Exactly. Choosing this triggers a manual review by actual Google staff.
A manual review. Okay, so a real person will look at it. That sounds like the path. If you're pretty confident you're compliant or you think you've really fixed things properly.
Precisely. But, and this is important, the guide includes a really crucial warning here. It's worth paying close attention.
Okay.
If, after you review the policy in your ad, you realize that you cannot actually fix the violation, like maybe the product itself is just fundamentally prohibited.
Nothing you can do about it.
Right. Or the core claims you need to make are just unapprovable according to the rules.
Yeah.
Then the strongest recommendation is to simply remove the ad. Just delete it.
Don't keep trying.
Don't keep trying. The guide really stresses that repeatedly trying to submit an ad that violates policy, even after it's been disapproved multiple times, that significantly increases the risk of getting your entire Google Ads account suspended.
Oof. Account suspension.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a pretty serious consequence. Definitely something you want to avoid at all costs.
Absolutely.
So for someone listening, maybe trying to navigate this or just understand this whole area better, what's the big overarching takeaway from everything we've dug into in this guide?
I think the core message really comes down to this. You absolutely have to understand the rules, know them inside out, and when there's any doubt at all, err on the side of extreme caution and compliance.
So advertise smarter, not just harder, essentially. Play by the rules.
Precisely. It means constantly checking. Is my product legal and safe in the places I'm targeting? Does my landing page strictly avoid making misleading or unapproved medical claims? Has I obtained any required certifications, especially for those regulated areas like CBD or pharmaceuticals?
Like keep checking those boxes.
Keep checking. The guide advises staying constantly updated on policy changes because they do happen, and suggests maybe using verification tools if necessary, like LegitScript perhaps, playing it safe. It's really the only sustainable approach here.
We've certainly covered a lot in this deep dive. We went from the fundamental why consumer safety driving Google's policies to looking at specific types of products and claims that often get banned, and then walked through the practical steps of fixing disapprovals or appealing decisions. It definitely gives you a clearer picture of the significant amount of, well, vetting and gatekeeping that's happening in this specific part of online advertising.
It really does. And here's maybe something for you to think about as you process all this.
Yeah.
Given how incredibly detailed and strict these policies are. I mean, even requiring third-party certifications for certain products.
Right.
What does this level of control really mean for the broader landscape of online health information and commerce going forward?
Interesting question.
How do platforms like Google balance protecting users from potential harm with perhaps limiting visibility for certain products or approaches that might fall into gray areas or maybe challenge conventional norms? And, what might that ultimately imply for future innovation or even access in the health and wellness space?
Right.
Something to consider.